Ever find yourself staring into your cereal bowl, wondering if those colorful flakes are secretly negotiating or hostile takeover of your metabolism?
Huh. Or maybe if that sleek new lotion is actually conducting some kind of, clandestine chemical experiment on your skin.
Exactly. Well, welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your guides through this maze of modern consumer news.
Yep, we sift through the noise, the headlines, everything to bring you the insights that actually matter.
Consider this your express lane to being well-informed, minus the headache of endless scrolling.
And today, we're plunging into a really fascinating collection of information. We've looked at the Consumers 360 News Commentary, Consumer Trends and News Apr22'25 podcast from consumers.app, among other things.
Right. And our aim is to connect some seemingly unrelated dots.
We're talking pantry contents, invisible microplastics, everything in between. Just trying to give you a clearer picture of the forces shaping our daily lives.
Absolutely. We're going to unpack the surprising truths about breakfast cereals, explore the burgeoning organic sector in South Africa, examine innovative ways people are tackling food waste.
Delve into that whole debate around food dyes.
Yeah.
Unravel the mysteries of your gut health.
Navigate the tricky hormonal landscape of weight management, especially for women.
Yeah.
Highlight the power duo of protein and fiber.
Address the growing concern of consumer debt. And confront that pervasive issue of microscopic plastic pollution and recycling.
Okay, get ready for maybe a few light bulb moments.
Hopefully.
Okay, let's start with breakfast, that supposedly crucial first meal. We all see those boxes, right? Promising energy, health.
Yeah, and fortified cereals do offer valuable stuff, vitamins, minerals, fibers.
There's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. The immediate red flag is the sugar, just lurking in so many of those seemingly wholesome options.
And it ties into that bigger picture of ultra-processed foods, right?
Exactly. A lot of cereals fall straight into that category. And the links are getting stronger, to obesity, cardiovascular diseases, metabolic disorders.
So it's this kind of double-edged sword, potential benefits here, but pretty significant risks over there.
It's that classic convenience versus consequence thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Grabbing a sugary cereal. It feels like a quick win, especially on busy mornings.
Totally. But then there was that unexpected finding from a study in the Philippines.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was interesting. In that specific context, relying on cereal products seemed to actually lower the odds of a certain nutritional deficiency. Dermatosis, I think.
Yeah, and this is the big but.
It absolutely depended on a varied diet overall.
Exactly. Fish, meat, dairy. Cereal alone wasn't the magic bullet. Far from it.
Context is just so key. And if you link that to the other study, the one in Nepal about adolescents, it showed how the whole food environment shapes their health. Access to fruits, vegetables, that have positive impact on BMI. Processed foods, negative impact.
It really hammers home that it's the pattern of eating that counts most, not just one food.
Right. Not just zeroing in on the cereal box.
And let's not forget the economics. Those profit margins on cereal. Like 45%. That's pretty impressive.
Oh, it's huge. And the sheer explosion in variety from 160 types in 1970 to like 5,000 by 2012.
Mind-boggling. Talk about decision fatigue in the breakfast aisle.
It makes you wonder what's driving it all. I mean, consumer demand, novelty, marketing.
Yeah.
It's all in the mix.
So for you, the listener, what's the takeaway? Become a label detective.
Basically, yeah. Look for lower sugar, higher fiber, whole grains. And maybe, pair it with fruit or yogurt. Simple stuff, but effective.
Okay, let's shift gears to South Africa. The organic product sector there is apparently really taking off.
It really is. And it's fascinating because it's like a perfect storm of positive trends.
How so?
Well, you've got rising consumer awareness, health, environment, all that. And there's government support, pushing certifications and standards. And it all just lines perfectly with this global shift towards sustainable agriculture. Fewer synthetic chemicals, focus on soil health.
And it sounds like they're serious about the organic label. The certifications meet international standards.
Yeah, pretty rigorous. Yeah. No synthetic stuff, meticulous records, keeping organic and non-organic separate. It builds consumer trust,
Definitely. And they're innovating, too, especially in cosmetics.
Oh, yeah, some really cool stuff. Using natural pH-reactive materials like anthocyanin and chitosan, things derived from plants or shellfish. It opens the door for gentler, more sustainable cosmetics.
Which is great news, especially when you hear about potential links between synthetic ingredients and things like skin irritation or allergies.
It really makes you think twice about what you're slathering on, doesn't it?
It does. And beyond cosmetics, the organic farming itself has benefits.
Big time. For the environment, I mean. promoting biodiversity, improving soil fertility, cutting down on synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, real ecological pluses.
And good for the local economy, too, it seems.
Absolutely. More demand, export opportunities, job creation for local entrepreneurs. It's a win-win.
Plus, that trend of using medicinal plants in cosmetics, that seems to be growing everywhere, right? Not just South Africa.
Definitely. A real consumer pull towards natural solutions, maybe stuff rooted in traditional knowledge.
Okay, let's pivot again. Food waste. Something we all contribute to, probably more than we realize.
Yeah. The scale is just staggering. In the U.S., something like 40% of the entire food supply gets wasted every year.
40%? That's huge.
And the environmental cost? Immense. Billions of tons of CO2 emissions. You can see why the UN wants to have food waste by 2030. It's urgent.
Sobering stuff. But there are positive initiatives happening, right? Like that rescue kitchen in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's a great example. Taking surplus food, turning it into healthy meals for people who need them. It tackles waste and food insecurity.
Plus, it cuts down on methane from landfills, which is a potent greenhouse gas.
Exactly. And people are exploring all sorts of strategies, using tech, ICT techniques to manage waste better all along the supply chain. And it's not just the food we throw out. There was that study in Ireland looking at metabolic food waste.
Metabolic food waste? What's that?
Basically, overeating. Consuming more calories than needed in high-income countries. And that has its own significant CO2 footprint.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's a less obvious angle. But, there are also cool educational tools emerging using VR, like that Meltdown project, or campus programs. Just try to shift behavior.
Whatever works, right? Immersive experiences, practical tools.
Exactly. And the overall approach should follow that waste hierarchy. Prevent waste first, then reuse or donate, then compost, and maybe energy production as a last resort.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk food dyes, the synthetic kind. What's the latest with the FDA?
Well, the big news is they decided not to ban them, despite some pressure.
Oh, so what are they doing?
They're basically calling on the industry to stop using them voluntarily. More of a nudge or maybe a strong suggestion than a hard rule.
But isn't there research raising concerns like that recent study on tartrazine yellow 5?
Yes, exactly. That 2025 study suggested it could impact things like DNA methylation and histone deacetylation.
Which, in plain English, means?
Potential links to processes involved in cancer development or genomic instability.
Yeah.
It definitely raises long-term questions.
And yellow 5 is just one of many, right? Used in food, drugs, cosmetics.
Yep. And regulatory bodies like the FDA and EFSA in Europe are constantly evaluating safety, but the science keeps evolving.
It comes back to those epigenetic modifications, how these things might subtly influence our genes. Still a lot to learn there.
Precisely. And that's why you see this growing interest in natural alternatives.
Like colors from plants.
Yeah, carotenoids from carrots, anthocyanins from berries, even cochineal from insects. They're generally seen as safer, though maybe not always as bright or stable as the synthetic ones.
But the trend is definitely towards cleaner labels, fewer artificial additives.
Absolutely. Consumers are pushing for it, and the industry is responding. Slowly, maybe, but it's happening.
Okay, let's dive deeper, literally, into our gut health. That hidden universe inside us.
Yeah, it's incredible. Trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses, all living in there.
And doing crucial jobs, right? Metabolizing food, maintaining the gut lining.
Immune function, even influencing our mood and behavior through the gut-brain axis. It's amazing.
The gut-brain axis, that connection seems increasingly important for mental health.
Hugely important. These microbes produce chemicals, neurotransmitters. They can directly affect brain chemistry. Links are being found to anxiety, depression, autism, even schizophrenia.
Mind-blowing. And there are specific good guys in there, like lactobacillus.
Right. Lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are two key beneficial groups. They help break down food, make vitamins, protect against pathogens, support the immune system. Really vital players.
And imbalances can cause problems beyond digestion, like with metabolic diseases.
Yeah, studies show links to type 2 diabetes, for example. Imbalances can mess with beneficial metabolic interactions, reduce production of important compounds like butyrate.
So could targeting the gut be a way to manage those conditions?
That's a huge area of research right now, especially with inflammatory bowel disease, IBD. Scientists are trying to pinpoint specific microbial targets for new therapies. It's moving fast.
So for everyday health, what can we do? probiotics?
Probiotics can definitely help restore balance in some cases. They might even help with anxiety or depression symptoms by influencing that gut-brain connection.
It all comes down to nurturing that internal ecosystem, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Healthy gut microbiome supports digestion, nutrient absorption, immunity, mental health. It protects against pathogens, reduces inflammation, lowers chronic disease risk. It's fundamental.
And lifestyle plays a big part. Diet, exercise, stress.
Definitely. A fiber-rich diet, fermented foods, regular exercise, managing stress, all crucial for keeping your gut microbes happy and diverse.
Okay, speaking of stress, let's talk cortisol, aging, and weight loss, particularly for women.
Right. This is a common struggle. High cortisol, often from chronic stress, can really contribute to weight gain, especially that stubborn belly fat.
And menopause makes it even trickier.
It often does, yeah. Hormonal shifts during menopause can alter metabolism and how fat is distributed. Plus, cortisol itself can ramp up appetite and cravings for, comfort foods.
Feels like a double whammy sometimes. But there's research on things like meditative movement, Tai Chi, yoga.
Yes, exactly. There's this proposed biobehavioral model suggesting these practices can really help manage weight during menopause.
How do they work? Is it just stress reduction?
That's a big part of it, lowering cortisol. But it's more holistic. They also improve body awareness, enhance mindfulness around eating and movement, and encourage healthier lifestyle habits overall. It addresses the psychological, behavioral, and physiological factors.
Interesting. And stress impacts hormones even beyond menopause, right? Like during pregnancy.
Oh, for sure. There was that study in sheep showing stress-disrupted cortisol and vitamin D levels. That could have implications for both the mother and the developing baby, potentially influencing weight later on. Stress has wide-ranging effects.
So practices like yoga or Tai Chi offer a way to address both mind and body.
Exactly. It's a really valuable approach for weight management, especially when hormones or stress are major factors.
And on the extreme ends, you have conditions like Cushing's syndrome.
Right, where cortisol is way too high, often causes weight gain, thinning skin, more common in women.
And Addison's disease is the opposite. Too little cortisol.
Yep, leading to weight loss, fatigue, low blood pressure. It just highlights how crucial that hormonal balance is.
So the key strategies are really those lifestyle fundamentals. Exercise, mindful eating, stress management.
Pretty much. A balanced diet, finding ways to de-stress like yoga or meditation. Those are the cornerstones.
Okay, let's talk about another cornerstone for weight management. Protein and fiber.
Ah, yes, the power couple.
So the science backs this up. A calorie-balanced diet with enough protein and fiber works.
It really does. Research shows it's a very effective strategy. Protein helps build and maintain muscle, which boosts your metabolism.
And fiber, that's about feeling full.
That's a huge part of it, yeah. It slows digestion, keeps you feeling satisfied longer, so you naturally eat less. Plus, it helps regulate blood sugar. Multitasking, like you said earlier.
So protein helps build the engine, fiber helps regulate the fuel intake.
That's a decent analogy.
Yeah.
And protein has long-term benefits too. Building muscle increases your resting metabolic rate. It helps curb appetite. And it's crucial for preventing that dreaded weight regain after you've lost it.
But it's not just more protein is always better, is it? There was that study about protein folding.
Yeah. That highlights the complexity. Too high a concentration, and proteins can unfold or clump together. So, like most things in biology, balance is key.
Right. And just to ground this, we're talking about managing weight to avoid obesity, which is clinically defined
as a BMI over 30. And it carries serious health risks. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers. It's a major preventable cause of disability.
So effective weight management isn't about quick fixes.
Definitely not. It's about sustainable habits, healthy eating, regular exercise, tracking progress, aiming for slow, steady loss, and then maintenance.
And diets like the Mediterranean diet fit well here.
Absolutely. All those fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats. It naturally provides good amounts of fiber and supports overall health, aligning perfectly with the protein and fiber benefits we're discussing.
Okay, shifting to a different kind of burden, consumer debt. That seems to be a growing worry.
It really is. Debt levels in the U.S. have climbed significantly.
What's driving that? Credit cards? Student loans?
All of the above.
Yeah.
High interest credit cards, payday loans, the sheer weight of student debt. But also inflation and wages not keeping pace.
So people are using credit just to cover basics?
Increasingly, yes. Relying on credit for essentials because purchasing power has eroded.
And that impacts individuals massively, right? Stress, high interest payment.
Oh, definitely. It causes huge financial distress, damages credit scores, makes future borrowing way more expensive. It's a tough cycle to break.
And what about the wider economy? Does high consumer debt pose a risk?
It can, absolutely. If people are burdened by debt, they spend less, which slows economic growth. Plus, you see higher rates of defaults and bankruptcies, which can ripple through the financial system.
So what can people do if they're struggling?
Well, the basics are crucial. Making a budget, really understanding where money is going, prioritizing paying off high-interest debt first.
Debt consolidation, is that an option?
It can be, yeah. Or seeking help from nonprofit financial counselors. The key is to avoid taking on new debt while tackling the old, taking proactive steps.
And we are seeing bankruptcy rates rise.
Unfortunately, yes. It's a clear sign that many households are under significant financial pressure.
Which underscores the need for financial literacy, doesn't it?
Hugely. Understanding budgeting, the real cost of debt, how credit scores work.
Yeah.
That education is vital for preventing people from getting overwhelmed in the first place. And yeah, inflation has definitely made things harder recently.
Okay, final topic. Let's zoom way in. Microscopic plastics in the environment and maybe in us.
Yeah, this is pretty concerning stuff, especially the nanoplastics.
Nanos are even smaller than micro, right?
Much smaller, less than a micrometer. They often come from microplastics breaking down further, and the worry is they're small enough to actually get into our tissues.
And there was that study linking them to heart issues?
Yes, a really significant recent finding. They found microplastics and nanoplastics, MNPs they call them, in the plaque buildup in people's carotid arteries.
Okay.
And the presence of those plastics was linked to a much higher risk of heart attack, stroke, or death in those patients, even if they didn't have symptoms before.
Wow. That's a direct link.
It's pretty alarming. It really highlights the potential human health risks. These things get into ecosystems, accumulate in the food chain, and we can inhale or ingest them. Potential for inflammation, cardiovascular problems. We're still figuring it all out.
Is there anything being done to remove them from water, for instance?
There's research. Electrocoagulation shows promise for removing nanoplastics from wastewater, so technological solutions are being developed.
And ways to detect them better.
Yep, using AI neural networks, deep learning, to get better at finding and classifying these tiny particles. We need good detection to understand the scale of the problem.
And where they come from in the first place, just bigger plastics breaking down.
That's a major source, yeah. But also microbeads from cosmetics, those are being phased out, and microfibers shedding from our synthetic clothes when we wash them. It's everywhere.
So even if we recycle bigger plastics, what about that process? Is it working well?
Well, it's complicated. Mechanical recycling, the most common kind, faces big challenges.
Like what?
The main one is variability. Recycled plastic isn't always consistent in quality or strength because you get mixtures of different plastic types and purities.
Right. And mixing everything together in single-stream recycling probably doesn't help.
Exactly. It makes sorting harder and contamination more likely. This variability makes it tough for industries to rely on recycled plastic for demanding applications.
But people are working on improving it, like that bio-inspired design.
Yeah, that sounded cool. Using stiff recycled plastic bits in a softer matrix to make the final material stronger and more predictable. Clever stuff.
And tools to help upcycling, like for 3D printing.
Right, that open source sensor to monitor filament diameter, helping turn waste plastic into useful feedstock for 3D printers. Every bit helps improve the process.
But the overall picture, not much plastic actually gets recycled more than once.
Globally, it's a tiny fraction, maybe around 1%. It shows the limitations. Plastic degrades each time it's mechanically recycled.
So recycling isn't the ultimate solution.
It's part of it, but reduction and reuse are much higher up the waste hierarchy, much more effective. Advanced recycling methods exist, but they can be expensive.
What does seem to boost recycling rates significantly?
Bottle bills, container deposit legislation. States with those laws have much, much higher recycling rates for beverage containers compared to the national average. It shows financial incentives can work.
Okay, wow. We have covered a lot of ground today, from cereal to nanoplastics.
We really have.
So, stepping back, what are the big themes, the connections between all these different threads?
Well, I think three main things really stand out. First, just the deep interconnectedness of our consumer choices and our health. What we eat, what we put on our skin, how we manage stress. These seemingly small daily decisions add up. They impact our weight, our gut, our disease risk, and they also connect to bigger environmental issues like waste and pollution.
Right. Our individual actions ripple outwards. What's the second theme?
I'd say it's that constant tension between convenience and well-being. We're drawn to easy options, processed food, disposable plastics, quick credit, But they often come with hidden costs.
Yeah, costs to our health, the environment, our finances. It's a trade-off we're constantly navigating, maybe without always realizing it.
Exactly. And the third theme.
For me, it's the crucial role of information and innovation. We need ongoing research to understand the impact of dyes, the gut microbiome, nanoplastics, all these complex things.
Right. And we need technological advances in sustainable farming, waste management, recycling, and maybe just as importantly, we need consumer awareness. Being informed helps us push for better solutions.
So thinking about you, our listener, what does all this mean for your daily life?
Yeah, maybe you're reconsidering that usual breakfast choice.
Or thinking differently about plastic use now, hearing about nanoplastics.
How might you apply some of those ideas about stress or protein and fiber?
Are there maybe small changes you could make to cut down on food waste at home? Or perhaps get a better handle on your finances?
These are definitely questions worth reflecting on, because ultimately being informed is that essential first step, isn't it?
It really is. The first step towards making positive changes for your health, your wallet, and, the planet we all share.
Well said.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I have one last curious question for you to mull over. Considering this growing awareness of microscopic pollutants everywhere and the push for more sustainable products, what wholly unexpected spiritual materials might we find ourselves consuming or using in really innovative ways in the future?